In the last episode, I started the Apex display, ran the cable for it, completely finished the main light mounts, started on the side fascia, and cut and mounted the removable top ceiling panels. In this episode, I will finish the Apex display and test the Apex system, finish the ceiling panels, start on the Sump Covers, finish the ceiling lighting system, and finally receive the phone call I have been waiting for. So these pieces didn't turn out exactly how I want them, so what I'm going to do is just use use the same paint as I used on the interior of the cabinet and paint these. And while that paint dries, the next thing I'm working on is, remember when I cut this cable? So now I'm going to try to see if I can splice this cable, solder it together, and I'm going to plug this Apex into the power and see if it all works. So as you can see, these cables are really thin, but there are 2 cables in each cable. So now I just have to solder those together. So these need another coat of paint, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug this guy in and make sure this works. And after a bit of soldering, I'll tell you, don't do what I just did. Don't cut it. It's crazy to solder. These cables are super thin, and Neptune just really didn't do well on the cabling of this unit, so my advice, do not cut the cable. But as you can see, it's working. Alright, so now that these are dry, look pretty good, so I think these are done. So the next thing I'm going to do is, on this piece of wood, I'm going to take a bunch of screws and I'm going to drill them into that piece of wood and then spray paint them, and the ceiling of the cabinet will be finished. Whoa, it's windy. And now that everything is dry, looks really good. This had 4 layers of clear coat and 4 layers of white paint. So now this is good to be installed. Also, the screws came out really good. They're gonna look pretty good as well. So now it's just time to install everything. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to try to fill in this hole right here, but screw it in so I can remove it later to access any cables that come through here. So right now I'm on my way to Home Depot to pick up pieces of acrylic for the top of the sump, and what I'm going to be doing is making sump covers, so nothing like accidentally drops into the sump or anything like that. And also, since I'm going to be growing Chaeto in the sump, I'm going to be spray painting a couple pieces of these covers black, so no light gets into any of the compartments of the sump that I don't want light in. Alright, well, I ended up getting 2 pieces. You never know with future projects. You never know if you're going to need a piece. And I paid $19.04 for 2 pieces. Alright, back from Home Depot, and I've got the piece of Lexan here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to make a cover for the sump, because I'm going to have an LED light that's going to grow frags and Chaeto and maybe some macroalgae. I'm not even quite sure yet, but what the light is going to do is it's going to shine in here, and I don't want anything growing in here because that's where the pump is going. So what I'm going to do is make a cover for the top of the sump. So right now I just have to get all of my measurements. The top of the acrylic is going to rest on the top of this ledge, so I have to cut that out and cut that out. So right now I just have to get the measurements from here to the glass, and that to me looks like it's going to be 6.5 perfectly. So now I'm just going to transfer all these measurements to the acrylic and then cut that out. And the good thing about this acrylic is you can actually see through, and I'm just looking at my measurements here and everything lines up pretty well. So the next thing I'm going to do is draw that line and then that line, do something like that. And now just ready to cut it out. I always find that when cutting acrylic or plexiglass, anything of the same kind of material, when you cut the acrylic, what happens is the blade gets so hot that it'll actually melt your cut right behind what you're cutting. So in order to fix that problem, what I've done is just use a really small tooth saw bit. To me, that helps out in the cutting process. As you can see. Alright, let's see if our measurements were right. And look at that. Fits great. Perfect. So that'll work just fine. And so the next thing I did is I cut a 2-inch piece, and what I want to use this for is there's a bit of a gap right here, so This 2-inch piece will be super glued to the bottom, and that will allow me to clear that gap. So we'll just let that dry and then take off the protectant and then spray paint it black. And now what I'm going to do is just apply a little bit more super glue in this crack just to make sure we have really good support in here. And now we'll just wait for this to dry and continue adding 2 or 3 more coats. And so now that the first coat is dry, I still need to go over this, probably 4 more coats and then a clear coat. So one thing, when it comes to working with acrylic or plexiglass or anything for that matter, what happens is once you put tension on either side, after time is it starts to bend and it starts to warp. So what I do in this kind of situation is I get some ABS plastic and I measure out exactly where I want the reinforced piece of ABS to go, and then I just take my ABS and I cut it out, and then I'll super glue that piece of ABS to the back side of this piece of acrylic. It gives it a lot more strength and it causes it not to bend in the future. And that is a perfect example of how when you're cutting something, the ABS plastic just comes right back and glues itself together. That came out pretty well. As you can see, there's just enough room in here so in case the sump does overflow, the water has somewhere to go. But just need to put about 4 more coats of black spray paint on this, and this cover should be done. And so the next thing I'm going to be doing is mounting this puck system. And I had this on my refugium for a while now, and I liked it so much that I decided to use it on the ceiling of the sump. So I'm just going to cut out a couple pieces of wood. and then mounting them to the back side. And that's it. Top of the sump light is done. Somebody's calling me. Hello? Hey, how you doing? I'm good, I'm good. Yeah, it's been a while. It is in stock? So wait, you finally got it today? Oh, right, man. That's great news. I'm actually just working on something now, but I'm going to wrap it up and I'm going to head your way soon. All right, you too, man. I'll see you in a bit. All right, take care. Well, guess who that was? The aquarium is finally here. I hope you are enjoying the videos, and if you are, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. It's free and a great way to support the channel.